West Indies versus India in 10, 9.
As we bring you ball by ball commentaries of the West Indies.
Infection yesterday. If in fact he can bowl it all in this innings, depending on how long it goes on for. But it was a big blow for the West Indies because he was looking very dangerous, Cornwall, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was very potent. He did ask lots of questions of the Indian batters, especially Yashasvi Jaiswal, who got to his debut century. So it would have been a blow for West Indies to lose him, especially so early yesterday when they needed wickets, and he looked like he would have been the straight bowler for West Indies. And I think we've been informed that he's not going to be allowed to bowl in this first session. He can't bowl until after lunch.
Right,
So
okay.
the question remains whether he's able to stay on the field for the entire session.
Yeah, no, it was a very, very unfortunate situation. But so just to recap, if you're just tuning in now, this current score for the Indian side is 312 for 2. Jaiswal's there on 143 not out, and with him is Virat Kohli, who has surpassed his score from the first time he played here in Dominica. He scored 30 on that occasion 12 years ago. He's on 36 not out, and as Shakira alluded to, he really was very measured yesterday. You know, it's kind of, we've got it into our heads now that, you know, great players are going to score runs and they're going to score runs quickly, but Kohli just dug in yesterday, supported Jaiswal, and they've had a very healthy stand to date. Not a big crowd in yet, but that's to be expected. It's pretty early in the morning, and it's going to be Jason Holder from the Botanical Gardens end to start the day's play. Here he comes, Holder, bowling to Jaiswal, and much the same as yesterday, outside the off stump, and he lets it go through the keeper. Actually, I was on air yesterday with Darren Ganga, and we talked about the first over being really important. You know, the batsman's not out overnight. Yes, he's on 143, but Holder just made it a little bit too easy for Jaiswal yesterday.
Yeah, I think there were 5 deliveries wide outside of that off stump, which Jaiswal was able to leave quite confidently. Holder will be looking to bowl a lot straighter here.
Here we go, here's Holder, and once more it is outside off stump. Yeah, I just kind of wonder why he you know, based on what happened yesterday, why he just doesn't start going around the wicket immediately, just to change that angle.
Yeah, I think it is a good suggestion. When he bowled around the wicket, he asked Jaiswal to play a lot more. He's able to get those lines right from around the wicket, so I'm quite surprised to see him start over and angle the ball away from Jaiswal.
He'll probably nick next ball. Here comes Holder bowling to Jaiswal, and once again he just shoulders arms and it sails through to Joshua De Silva behind the stumps. So just looking at this field, we've got Rakeem Cornwall is at first slip. We've got Jermaine Blackwood in the gully. I think that's who's that? I think that's Athanase at point. It is. Then we've got Ramon Reefer at cover. Craig Brathwaite at mid off. Alzari Joseph at mid on. Chanderpaul at mid wicket. And Kemo Roach at fine leg, and Warrican at deep point. Here's Holder, and Jaiswal gets that one away behind square to that man Warrican coming around in front of the scoreboard, restricting the scoring to 1. So Jaiswal underway, moves on to 144.
Again, fuller and wider of off stump. And he's able to drive that one square of the wicket. West Indies perhaps thinking there may be an opening and trying to get him to nick off to those slip fielders waiting behind.
So it's Holder from the Botanical Gardens end in front of the Billy Doctrove Pavilion, over the wicket to Virat Kohli, and Kohli works that one off his legs and just past the umpire. There's a chase there for Ramon Reefer, and Kohli comes back for a comfortable 2. What have been your thoughts on Craig Brathwaite's captaincy?
At points, I found him to be a bit too defensive. There were moments yesterday where I thought West Indies could have been a bit more proactive and tried to create opportunities. In particular, when Jamal Warrican was bowling at the back end of yesterday, I thought perhaps you could have seen another catcher. Even though it was good to see him persist with those 2 slips and a short leg, even when the part-time spinners were on.
Here's Holder bowling to Kohli. That's short of a length. Kohli comfortably in behind it. That is the end of the first over of the morning. It's 315 for 2, the latest score at Windsor Park. Yeah, I kind of felt it. He just sort of let it drift a little bit too much, and you know, like, the field was spread off often, and I just thought, because they're not scoring, why not just bring the men in? crowd them, just create that, it might not necessarily get you a wicket, but it might just change the game in some way.
Yeah, I think there was an instance, I think it was at the start of Virat Kohli's innings, there was a long one employed. And he's just starting, regardless of his experience and all the runs under his belt. He's just starting an innings on a pitch, which is very hard to score on. So why not bring in that fielder to mid-on to make it that much easier, that much more difficult for him to get off strike?
Well, it was the same with Jaiswal. I remember, I forget who was bowling at the time. It may have been Athanaze, I think. And it's the same thing, there was a deep mid-on and he was just getting off strike too easily. Just like, what? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, it's going to be Warrican, the dreadlock poet, coming in from the river end. He'll be bowling over the wicket to Jaiswal. He's got a man catching at short leg, and Cornwall in the first slip position. Here is Warrican, and immediately Jaiswal uses his feet down the ground. He finds Jason Holder at mid-off and he runs through for a single. It was kind of a strange day, wasn't it, yesterday, in the sense that India only lost 2 wickets. The pitch wasn't doing a lot, but the West Indies really contained them extremely well.
Yeah, and I think that's compliments of how well Jamal Warrican bowled yesterday, and also Ali Atanaz did mention that he bowled 13 overs. I thought he bowled quite tight lanes.
Here is Warrican going round the wicket to the right-handed Virat Kohli. Just punches that one into the offsides, picked up by Craig Brathwaite, and there's no run.
It's also as though the Indian batting team and their management are quite content in batting time, spending time at the wicket. There's so much time left in the game, just the third day. They're already leading by 166 runs.
So we see a change in the field for Kohli. A second slip comes in now for Warrican. And Kohli's defensively, he's playing back to that one, slightly shorter of a length. He's playing back to it, but just defends it into the offside, where Ramon Reefer picks up, and there's no run. Here's Warrican again to Kohli. It's angled in towards leg stump, and Kohli defends it back to the bowler.
A bit flatter and faster there from Warrican. That's perhaps the pace he would want to operate at on such a slow pitch.
Here's Warrican once more. This defending is Kohli. Last ball of the over now. It's Warrican, and once more Kohli's defensively forward, playing back to Warrican. That's the end of the second over of the morning. 1 run off it. It's 306 for 2, the latest score at Windsor Park. So barring a major collapse, the most likely scenario, I guess, is probably a declaration at some point today. What are your thoughts on when that might come and the reasons for it?
I am thinking perhaps back until tea and have a bowl at West Indies in the last session. But what stood out to me is I listened to an interview with the batting coach, and he seemed to have suggested that they're not quite thinking about that declaration as yet. They still think they have more than enough time to bowl out West Indies.
Well, I mean, I guess the obvious factor is the fact that they're a long way ahead already. They're almost 200 runs ahead already, or 166 they are ahead at the moment. And the other factor is the West Indies only made 150 in their first innings, right? So, and the fact the pitch is taking turn, plus they've got 2 elite spinners, so yeah, makes sense. So here is Holder. He is going round the wicket this time, and immediately Jaiswal is made to play, and he just punches that one up to Craig Brathwaite at mid-off, and there's no run.
I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Rahul Dravid is head coach, and we know the style of cricket that he played. So perhaps
grind
that's
them into the
impacted.
ground.
The wall, they called him.
Oh, my favourite innings or favourite partnership of all time was Dravid and Lakshman in Adelaide against Australia. They batted for like 15 days or something.
15 of the 5.
Here comes Jason Holder, past umpire Michael Goff, bowling to Jaiswal, and he has to play this time, but he punches it past mid-on. It's a long chase for Alzari Joseph. Will he get there? No, he won't. And it's 4 runs to the boundary, just in front of the Billy Doctrove pavilion. That takes Jaiswal on to 149. So just 1 run shy of 150 on Test debut.
That
So I
was
guess-
such great timing.
Oh, beautiful, wasn't it? Maybe Holder should go back over the wicket so he doesn't concede 4. Just after this delivery, I'd like to get your impressions on the performance of young Jaiswal. So Holder, something to think about after that last boundary. Here he comes in again. And Jaiswal's just dabbing that one into the gully region. It's picked up by Alec Athanase, and there's no run.
I think he's shown great maturity. Firstly, there was a lot of hype about his ability to score quickly. Obviously, the fact that he scored 9 first-class hundreds before coming into this game. But it hasn't been easy to bat on this pitch, and I think he's adapted quite remarkably.
Here's Holder. And Jaiswal's driving, but it was well fielded by Holder in his follow-through, just dropping his extremely long arms down to pick that one up, and there's no run. Yeah, there's a few different words got mentioned on commentary yesterday, but the one that stood out for me was his temperament. His temperament is just is unflappable out there.
And he looks completely unfazed by the situation.
Here's Holder to Athanase on 149, and he pulls this one away down behind square where Kemo Roach picks up, and he goes through to 150 on Test debut. Not quite the same celebration as when he got to 100 yesterday, which was a raw show of emotion. Just a gentle raising of the bat, but one suspects if he goes on to 200, as Kohli gives him a nice little tap on the back and a tap on the head. I'm sure you'd enjoy that, having Virat Kohli at the other end.
Another landmark achieved, and in the company of another legend in his own right. He brought up that 100 with Rohit Sharma at the crease, and now he's there with Virat Kohli.
So India now 322 for 1. Kohli's on 38. Jaiswal 150. Here's Jason Holder over the wicket this time to Virat Kohli, and he's defending to cover. Picked up there by Jermaine Blackwood, and that is the end of the over. It's 321 for 2, the latest score at Windsor Park. So forgive me, I'm not so familiar and I've never met you before, but which part of the Caribbean are you from?
I'm from Barbados, beautiful island of Barbados. Have you ever been there?
I have. I worked for the Cut and Drive network there last year when New Zealand was touring. Great series, 2-1.
Yeah.
And in the last match we chased like 320 or something, I think. But I must tell you a little secret. The day before the match, I went on a boat cruise, rum boat cruise. New Zealand, 10 of the New Zealand guys were on that cruise, and I can assure you they weren't abstaining.
And they still managed to win that game.
I said to Tim Southey, I said, you seem to be having a few rums. He said, well, if we'd won the series, I might have had a few more by now. True story. No, they were very well behaved, but they loved it. Here's Warwican beginning a new over to Jaiswal. It's a shout for LBW. Stifled, probably. But yeah, I spent a week in Barbados last year. I stayed a night in Barbados to get here this time. I've got a fun fact for you in a minute, Shakira. Here is Warrican bowling to Jaiswal, just defends that one into the offside, but there's a gap at point and he picks up a run. So the taxi driver would, I stayed at Rihanna's childhood house.
Did you? How did you manage that?
It's on Airbnb.
I forgot that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back home and book a night there.
Yeah, that was a real treat. Here's Warrican round the wicket to Virat Kohli. He's defensively forward. And playing up to Brathwaite, and there's no run. Just looking at that LBW shout earlier, it looks like it was a bit of bat involved off Jaiswal. Here's Kohli defending the ball back to Warrican, and there's no run. Here's Warrican once more. Kohli's defending once more. It's been a sort of one of the things that's really